Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about block level and inline level elements in HTML. So you may have noticed that when you start new paragraphs or new H1s or whatever in your HTML document, it actually just starts a new line automatically. And those are called block level elements. So just for an instance, let's make a new HTML file. Let's call this block versus inline, I guess. Block versus inline. And I'll save it to my desktop. Okay, there we go. HTML tab. Okay, cool. So block versus inline. So if I make a new H1, block versus inline elements, and I'll make an H2, I guess, block level elements. So these are things like, I guess let's make an unordered list. So unordered list. Things like headers, H1, H2, etc. Things like paragraphs. Let's see if we can come up with others. I'm not sure. What other ones are there? The way that they work is when you make a new H1, as we can see above, it's going to make a full title, and then this H2 is then going to appear on its own line. And sure enough, this UL doesn't actually do anything, but each of these LIs, so an LI is another example of something that makes its own line. So if I hit save on this and then open it, where are we? Block versus inline. As you can see, new line, new line, new line, new line, new line. And there are others as well. But there are also some elements that we've seen that don't actually change things. Like, for example, the anchor tag. Like, let's say I want to take this H1 and say this block versus inline elements, and let's add link. I could make this link an anchor by hitting a tab, and let's move this end of the anchor around this link brackets. Okay, and I want this to be a link right to the W3 Schools website. So I can copy that and paste it here. Now this anchor tab, if this anchor tab was called a block line element, then this anchor should make a new line right here. So if I made, well, here, let's save this and show you what I mean. So I refresh this and boom, that just added a link right there. If I try to, let's say inside let's make a paragraph, and I'm going to say, this is my text, blah, 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 lorem. If you hit lorem and then hit tab, you get a whole bunch of text. Let's say I've got this here, and then inside here, I add another paragraph of I like cheese. What's this going to do? So I've got a whole bunch of text, and in the middle I've got I like cheese, and a whole bunch of text. If I hit save on this and refresh, it does boom, a whole bunch of text, then I like cheese becomes its own block, then a whole bunch of text. What if I don't want I like cheese to be its own thing, but I wanted it to be like, I don't know, it's supposed to be funny or something. So what I'm going to do is I can do something called adding emphasis to some text. And so adding emphasis to this text is going to change it so that I like cheese now appears right here, blah, 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 commando I like cheese, consequent, whatever. I probably want a space there. Let's go back and add a space. So that adds what's called emphasis, which is italics. Now, just a note about this, if you go back to old websites, like way back in the day, the way that they did that would be by adding something like this, I for italics. This is my text, there we go, /I. And that is actually telling the web page that you want to italicize your text. I actually want this to be italics. But back when cascading style sheets were invented, we had this idea that we wanted to separate the structure of the site, which is the HTML, from the styling of the site, which is how it looks. So this I like cheese is an EM tag, which just is telling the website that you should add emphasis. And how you add emphasis is up to your styling, which we haven't got to yet. But when we get to cascading style sheet, there's going to be lots of options. Maybe your emphasis is going to be changing the background color or changing the font or making it, I don't know, bigger. There are many different ways you could add emphasis to something. that aren't just italicizing. And in fact, italicizing, a lot of people think is kind of ugly. So a lot of people never want to italicize text. And so a lot of, when CSS came in, they got rid of well, they still support it, but you shouldn't use the italics text. And similarly, there's a bold tag, which is B, and that literally tells the website to make this text bold. So if I refresh this now, my text is now bold. But instead of telling the HTML, or telling inside the structure of the document how to display the text, instead what you should do is you should use the word strong, which means we've got something really strong we want to say. And it ends up, at this point, it ends up looking exactly the same. The strong text shows up as bold, but behind the scenes, we are using the strong tag, which is then letting the website decide, based on its styling, how it wants to display it. Okay, so strong and EM are both examples of inline elements. So let's make a new unordered list here. Let's call this, or another H2, I guess. So H2, this is inline elements. We've seen a few now. So inside our unordered list, let's make some list items. We've seen A. Let's duplicate this. We've seen EM, and we've seen strong. So there you go. That's block level elements versus inline elements in HTML.